Hey guys, so time to check out the new patch and which champions have become a lot better in each role when you're looking at climbing for solo queue. By the way, the MSI, RP, and chair giveaway from last week is ending on the 14th, and I'll announce them in a video as well. I had a couple of questions when it's going to end, so there you go. And if you haven't entered yet, the video is linked down below. Timestamps and a list of champions are also below, but AD carry it first, and we finally had our Tristana nerfs, and they have actually made a difference. She isn't terrible, she is worse, that's pretty much it. Xayah is still a beast though right now, partly because Rakan is so good with her, but we mentioned her last video, so that moves Varus up to our #1 spot then I think. Rage Bait is so good right now. I know it's going to have some changes soon, but it's a really hard spike at just one item. You get AD, AP, and attack speed, which all work for you. He has a really good lane phase. He can trade, he can fight properly, he can actually go aggressive and win his lane, and he is a tank shredder. But you also have on-hit damage, which means you burst squishies pretty hard with Rage Bait, and especially with the Wit's End. You have your playmaking with your ultimate, which can snowball the game out of control really. Like, you group up, you catch people. It's a great way to actually like at least control the game a bit more. Wit's End and Rage Bait though is a little bit too powerful in my opinion. The damage is really high, but it's also very reliable damage, not like a crit where you have to rely on the percentage chance. Speaking of crit champions, Caitlyn has honestly swapped places with Tristana with a win rate at least, and not quite as broken, but still much better than before. I guess Tristana was kind of the better version, so now Triss has moved out a little bit. We have more Caitlyn, but also with the fleet footwork nerfs, her lane poke is sticking a little bit more. You can actually take towers very easily. You can control the lane, which is important. She is more of an objective control AD carry, not a kill everything AD. Partly the win rate is also because she's quite good at dealing with Jhin and Xayah, both of which are more popular at the moment. You can though play with a sensor or a more aggressive support. Both of them have pretty good synergy. You scale very well, so sensor is really good. You can though fight because you can place traps underneath the support's crowd control. Quick thing on Jhin though, he is better. He's decent, but not broken or anything just yet. The meta is a little bit hard for him. Items are not in the best spot ever either, so he isn't quite at the top of the role, but he isn't at the bottom anymore. Vayne is our honorable mention today. The win rate becomes pretty gross at around the 3 item mark right now. It is kind of a dumb playstyle, but if you can just kind of hold on until then and play passively, you're pushing a 53 to 55% win rate, which for an AD carry is really high. Obviously, you can go more aggressive early if you want to. It's partly why Vayne is quite good. She can duel people still, and also again, you have good matchups right now, and overall, you're in a pretty decent spot for 8.5. Onto the mid lane, and there are a few new ones we're going to talk about. The Zoe buffs, by the way, though, definitely helped her out, and she is back to at least being good again. Swain is the one we're going to look at first of all, and surprise, surprise, the Birdman is actually broken in 8.5. Only a few days in, but spiking to above a 54% win rate is a pretty decent start to a patch, I think. I actually think he's been good for a few weeks already, but nobody was really playing him that much. We didn't really see him. Nobody knew exactly how to play him, so he didn't seem that strong. It seems like they've overbuffed him, and now he is actually a real problem. Without Morellonomicon as well in the mid lane, like without rushing that as a first item, there is no easy answer either, unless you want to invest all of that gold into it. Normally we have Swain in the top lane, and he is good top, but he's now way more of an AP focused champion after the rework. His damage is very high. He doesn't really die that much, and I think it's the ultimate change where the explosion doesn't get blocked by champions anymore that really tipped him too far. I think it's also about time we talked about the other bird in the mid lane. Anivia has been quietly good since the AP item rework, but now she's getting even better. In 8.5, she has a very solid win rate versus Ryze, Azir, Galio, and Fizz champions like that. Those are all good, and they're very popular at the same time. She's a pretty defensive build at the moment, which is kind of gross really, like double stacking. So you have your tier, you have your Rod of Ages, with the passive as well, protecting her. That's actually kind of disgusting. This tier into Rod of Ages build now at the moment, which is popular on some champions, is honestly insane after the item rework. The same reason it's really good on Cassiopeia. I also cannot say enough how good the new Leandries is on her though. It is such a perfect item. The damage amp is going to be making a second rotation really hurt way more, and that is kind of the rotation where you really need to kill somebody before they kill you. For my honorable mention, when I gave this to my editor for this video, he asked me if the Psalm pick mid was a mistake, and that about sums this up honestly. You get to Abyssal Mask and Banner of Command, and it's almost a free win. As stupid as that sounds, it is actually a thing, and it's a legit strat that works. It deserves a mention at least, I think, for the mid lane. It's nasty, it's still very good in 8.5. You poke with your E, you chip the enemy mid laner down, and it's very hard to play against. It's not something we're going to see all the time, I hope, because it's really gross. It's a bit cheesy, but it's actually very good at controlling and pushing the enemy mid laner. In the jungle, though, we have had a shift here. The Volibear nerfs hit actually pretty hard, a lot harder than I thought they would. But Warwick is still insane. We always talk about him, though. So next up is Shyvana. From kind of like bottom middle of the role in 8.4 to top of it overnight, which is not bad. AD per level is such an important stat, and reverting those nerfs were magical for Shyvana. They really helped her. Pressy attack was also buffed in this patch to start it off at 8% damage instead of 4%, which is much better. If you add in the nerfs to tank junglers this patch on Cinderhulk and also Warmogs, you're kind of onto a winner with Shyvana. Her farm speed has always been really good, right? It's quite easy to play this champion, but the damage is still very high, even when you're building tank. You can go more damage than the build that I suggest here. This is the most common setup, really. It's the highest win rate as well, but it relies on your team a little bit more, which for lower ranks you might not want to do. If you're going to swap something out, I would honestly say you should probably get like a Titanic Hydra after your Frozen Mat, something like that. But the next one we're going to move on to is Jax. Very similar to Shyvana, actually, except a bit more interactive. I think like he's a bit more fun to play. He's normally pretty good versus tanky or kind of bruiser champions, which is actually most of the jungle meta in 8.5. He's tanky enough to absorb some damage and survive, but he's got enough damage to beat you down as well at the same time, which is a really good combination. He's very easy to play, and this is why he's kind of my default jungler at the moment. He's quite fun. But you can't really go wrong with him either. He ganks well with his stun. You can fight if you find people alone. You take towers very quickly after you gank as well. You can actually also carry, really important. So you do like work early, you gank and stuff, you get your lanes ahead, but you still earn your LP and you don't have to rely on your team. Kha'Zix is my honorable mention, and he probably could be the #1 spot. He is pretty busted at the moment, not gonna lie. If you're good with him, at least. A bad Kha'Zix is beyond the useless, but a good one can demolish a game pretty much single-handedly. The thing that makes or breaks the Kha'Zix, I think, at the moment is your mid game. If you can snowball and you can stalk kills, you can find them alone and stuff, that is how you properly win with him, and win quite easily as well. Support is going to be next, and it hasn't really changed that much recently, honestly. Janna is still at the very top, but again, we're not going to talk about champions we always talk about, so we're going to look at Nami. I'm not exactly sure what changed. It's over a couple of patches, but I've had my ass handed to me so much by Nami recently. She controls the lane so well, and in my opinion can counter both types of supports, which is why she's so good. She matches the defensive side of a Janna, for example, in lane at least. You can heal up and bully and go aggressive and control that lane. Against aggressive ones though, like Alistar, for example, right? You can stop their engage or you can turn it around. Like if their Alistar dives in, you bubble the enemy AD carry and give them a smack instead, and they can't follow it up. Nami is so diverse that a good one becomes really hard to play against because she's going to shut what you want to do down. Especially now in Season 8 when supports do a lot more damage as well. That is kind of the thing that separates Nami from a lot of others, is how much damage she can do. The other side of the coin though really is like an Alistar, who is the king of crushing lanes, except sensor ones. I always thought that the way to beat defensive sensor supports was to hard engage them, and that is how it's supposed to go, but in Season 8 it seems that they can survive a lot easier and just disengage them, making this lane way harder. Thankfully Janna and Lulu are fairly often banned, I guess, but still if your AD carry is poo as well, you just roam and you win the other lanes. That is what makes him so good. You can feed your AD carry kills for sure and make him really strong, but you can feed your whole team kills and win the game that way. These two are very different support playstyles. Both are very good at the moment, so it's kind of up to you which you prefer, whether you want to do the carrying and the playmaking or you want to sit back and counter their playmakers. The one we're going to look at last is Bard, who is a whole nother animal at the moment. He is the proper carry. Sounds kind of weird, but he has the playmaking down. He brings a ton of damage as well though, since those buffs a few patches ago to his meeps and the natural damage I guess he gets from Season 8. It is a little different, but he is actually good versus things like Janna or Lulu because of his crowd control, but because of the damage follow-up afterwards. Last up is going to be top lane again. It seems pretty even at the moment. Nothing is like standout overpowered except Swain, which we looked at for the mid lane already. Sion is actually a bit worse now in 8.5, but there are a few things. So Singed is a different one we're going to look at today. He's getting a lot better over Season 8 as it carries on, especially after the AP item changes. They really helped. The new Leandries, for example, the damage amp is pretty sick when your job is literally to kite stuff around and like prolong a fight. Mostly at the moment it is a Rylai's Rush, then into Righteous Glory or Leandries, but the three of those, they are kind of your core now. It's pretty gross in 8.5, but some of his matchups are above a 60% win rate, which never really happens. Like on average, a Malphite, a Jax, a Yasuo, even a Cho'Gath, they get so wrecked by Singed. Part of this is probably people are not really sure how to play against him, but Singed seems to be pretty dominant at the moment and getting more dominant as patches go on and he's not nerfed. When you look at his win rate as well, it's heavily weighted for the early game. So getting ahead and like running away with the game, that's probably why it doesn't seem that bad and why he maybe doesn't need a nerf, because if you get away from that phase, like you outlast that, then he's actually not as good as before. Darius will be our other one. We did talk about him last patch. He came back in that patch in 8.4 because of some buffs, but he's still very good at the moment. And there's this new kind of build as well. Trinity Force has been around for a while. That's not the new part. It adds a lot more damage in the lane phase, just like Trinity Force Fiora does. It helps you snowball a lot more and just get out of control. The new part though is going Cleaver into Titanic. That is something I haven't seen like come up on stat websites until very recently. Maybe I missed something and it's been like done for a while. I haven't seen Darius very much in season 8 until those buffs, so I would doubt it though. It makes a lot of sense actually. It gives him more health to survive, plus a lot more damage. It adds to his burst and his trading with the reset, so you can go in, use your W to reset one, and then you can use your Titanic to reset again. That's pretty broken. It gives him a lot more wave clear, at the same time makes him a lot more deadly, which is really nice, and that's kind of Darius's job, right, to kill stuff. This is one of the highest win rate builds at the moment, if not the highest actually, so it's worth a mention, and trying it if you play Darius, it might be something really good. Last one for the top lane, the honorable mention is going to be Fiora. She's last up, she's getting a lot better as 8.5 comes in now. I didn't really expect this. I didn't expect to see her becoming better. I thought this would have been because of the pressy attack changes, but it's actually not. Pressy attack still has a horrible win rate on Fiora, and it's not used very much. Kleptomancy is still winning a ton more. She does have amazing dueling power with her Ravenous into Trinity build, and it seems like if she gets ahead mid-game, she is a real force to deal with at the moment. That is going to wrap up our look at 8.5. I wanted to try and explain the meta a bit more in this one rather than just list the best of the best. Let me know what you think of that, but for now, as always, I will leave you with the robots.